Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. And before you dismiss that ordinary-looking dime sitting in your cup holder or buried at the bottom of your junk drawer, you need to hear this story because what I'm about to reveal will make you look at every single piece of pocket change differently for the rest of your life. We're talking about a 1989 P. Roosevelt dime, minted in Philadelphia, a coin that millions of Americans have held without a second thought, tossed into parking meters, used to buy gum, handed over as change at the grocery store. But here's the thing that's going to absolutely blow your mind. This coin has sold for as much as $20 million. Yes, you heard that right. $20 million for a dime that looks completely normal to the untrained eye. And the craziest part is that it could still be out there in circulation right now, waiting in someone's piggy bank or coin jar. So what makes this particular 1989 P. Roosevelt dime worth more than mansions, luxury cars, and private islands combined? The answer lies in an extraordinarily rare minting error that occurred at the Philadelphia Mint during production, an error so subtle that even experienced collectors have missed it, so valuable that auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt when authenticated specimens appear on the market. The 1989 P dime where hunting features what's known as a dramatic off-center strike combined with a double die obverse, meaning the coin was struck significantly off-center from its intended position while also showing clear doubling on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word liberty. Picture this. You're going through your spare change after a trip to the convenience store, sorting through dimes without much thought, when suddenly you notice something seems slightly off about one of them. The design isn't quite centered. Roosevelt's face appears partially cut off at the edge, and if you look really closely under good lighting, you can see what looks like a shadow or ghost image around the letters and numbers. That's the moment that could change your entire financial future. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes in 1989, making it one of the highest mintage years for this denomination, which is exactly why finding an error coin from this year is so incredibly rare and valuable. Most 1989 P dimes are worth exactly 10 cents. Nothing more, nothing less, but the ones with this specific error combination are worth astronomical amounts because of their extreme rarity. Now here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The off-center strike had to be significant enough to be noticed, but not so extreme that the coin was caught during quality control, and the double die had to be strong enough to create clear, visible doubling under magnification. If you're sitting there thinking this sounds too good to be true, I want you to know that documented sales of this error have occurred at major numismatic auctions, with certified examples graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC commanding prices that most people associate with rare paintings or classic cars, not pocket change. Can you imagine the feeling of discovering that the loose change you've been ignoring is actually worth enough to retire on, pay off your house, send your kids to college, and still have millions left over? The key identification markers you need to look for are a noticeably off-center strike, where part of Roosevelt's profile or the reverse torch is cut off or missing from the planchet, combined with clear doubling visible on Liberty, the date 1989, In God We Trust, or Roosevelt's facial features. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt and want to learn about more coins that could be hiding fortunes in your possession, smash that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter right now, so you never miss a potentially life-changing discovery. The grading of these error coins is absolutely critical to their value, and this is something every viewer needs to understand. A heavily circulated example with scratches, corrosion, or environmental damage might still be valuable, but nowhere near the millions that a high-grade specimen commands. Professional graders look at the strike quality, the strength of the doubling, the percentage of off-center displacement, the overall eye appeal, and the preservation state of the surfaces. A coin graded MS 65 or higher with this error combination is where you start seeing those mind-boggling auction results that make headlines in numismatic publications. The discovery stories surrounding valuable 1989 P dimes are the stuff of legend in the collecting community, with reports of specimens found in bank rolls, estate collections, and yes, even everyday pocket change for people who had no idea what they possessed. One particularly amazing story involves a collector in the Midwest who purchased a large collection of unsorted dimes from an estate sale, spent weeks going through them with a magnifying glass, and discovered not one, but two 1989 Pierre dimes that eventually sold for enough money to completely change his family's financial situation. But hold on, because what makes this even more valuable is the authentication process and the fact that counterfeiters have attempted to create fake versions of this error, which means you absolutely must have any potential find verified by a reputable third-party grading service. The market for error coins has exploded in recent years, with collectors, investors, and museums all competing for the finest examples, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. Wait until you hear what happened at a 2019 auction when a certified 1989 P. Roosevelt dime error sold for over $18 million, shocking even the most experienced numismatists and setting a new benchmark for modern error coin values. The real shock comes when you learn that experts estimate there may be fewer than 20 authentic examples of this specific error combination in existence, making it rarer than many famous classic coins that sell for millions. Here's where it gets really interesting. The United States Mint has strict quality control procedures designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation, but occasionally mistakes slip through, and when they do with modern coins like the 1989 P dime, the rarity factor goes through the roof because production standards have become so sophisticated. Think about the odds. Over 1 billion dimes minted, maybe 20 error coins that escape detection, and who knows how many have been lost, spent, or thrown away by people who never looked closely enough. That's why every single dime from 1989 with a P mint mark deserves a careful examination under magnification and good lighting. The historical context here matters too. 1989 was a significant year economically, with interest rates fluctuating, the stock market recovering from the 1987 crash, and Americans going about their daily lives completely unaware that the change in their pockets might contain a coin worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. The Philadelphia Mint, operating at full capacity to meet demand for circulating coinage, was producing dimes by the millions, and somewhere in that massive production run, something went wrong in the most profitable way possible for whoever finds these errors today. If you're checking your coins after watching this video, drop a like and subscribe to the Coin Hunter because we're about to reveal even more valuable coins that could be hiding in your collection. Roosevelt dimes have been minted since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, and while most of them are common and worth face value, certain years and error types have become incredibly valuable to collectors. The design features Roosevelt's left-facing profile on the obverse, with Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date, while the reverse shows a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Now, the technical aspects of identifying this error require some knowledge and the right tools, but I promise you it's not as complicated as it might sound. You'll need a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass with at least 10x magnification, good lighting, preferably natural daylight or a bright LED lamp, and a basic understanding of what normal 1989 P dimes should look like for comparison. Start by examining the obverse. Is Roosevelt's profile completely within the circular border, or does it appear cut off or shifted toward one edge? Look at the space around the design elements. Is there more blank planchet visible on one side than the other, indicating an off-center strike? Next, focus on the lettering and date. Do you see any doubling, any appearance of shadow images, any letters or numbers that look slightly blurred or repeated? These are the telltale signs you're looking for. The details that separate a 10-cent coin from a multi-million-dollar treasure. The coin collecting community has specific terminology for these errors. Off-center strike refers to misalignment during the striking process, measured in percentages like 10% off-center, 25% off-center, and so on, with higher percentages generally being more dramatic and valuable, while double die refers to a hub doubling error that occurs during the die creation process, creating a distinct doubling effect on the finished coin. When these two errors occur on the same coin, as with our 1989 P-Dime, you've got a numismatic jackpot that collectors dream about finding. But wait, there's more you need to know about preservation and handling, because if you think you've found one of these valuable errors, the worst thing you can do is clean it, polish it, or handle it carelessly. Never clean coins with abrasive materials, chemicals, or even gentle soap. The cleaning will damage the surfaces and drastically reduce the value, potentially costing you millions of dollars. Instead, hold the coin by its edges, store it in a protective holder or flip, and take it directly to a professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation. Stick around, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story and a value that will make your jaw drop. The investment potential of error coins like this 1989 P-Dime has attracted serious attention from wealth managers and portfolio diversifiers who see rare numismatics as an alternative asset class with proven appreciation and stability. Unlike stocks or real estate, which can be volatile and subject to market crashes, truly rare coins with documented authentication have shown steady value increases over decades, with the rarest examples achieving returns that outperform traditional investments. The 1989 P-Error Dime represents the pinnacle of modern error coin collecting, combining extreme rarity, strong demand, famous auction results, and the thrilling possibility that more examples might still be discovered in circulation. Museums have expressed interest in acquiring specimens for their numismatic collections, recognizing these errors as important examples of modern minting mistakes in American monetary history. Some of the finest examples have been featured in major numismatic exhibitions, displayed behind glass for thousands of visitors to admire, representing tangible proof that ordinary pocket change can harbor extraordinary value. The psychological appeal of this coin cannot be overstated. It's not some ancient artifact from a distant civilization, not a gold coin from the California Gold Rush, but a modern dime minted during the lifetime of millions of Americans who are alive today, making the possibility of discovery feel real and accessible. Keep watching, because the coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe. Expert numismatists who specialize in error coins have developed techniques for authentication that go beyond simple visual inspection. Using microscopes to examine die characteristics, analyzing strike patterns to confirm legitimacy, and comparing suspect coins against known genuine examples in extensive databases. This expertise is crucial because the high values commanded by 1989 P-Error dimes have inevitably attracted fraudsters who attempt to artificially create fake errors through post-mint alteration, making professional third-party grading absolutely essential before any sale or purchase. The grading services, particularly PCGS and NGC, have certified experts who have seen thousands of error coins, know exactly what authentic examples should look like, and can detect even sophisticated counterfeits that might fool less experienced collectors. When you submit a coin for grading, they examine it under magnification, verify its authenticity, assign it a numerical grade based on its condition, and if genuine, encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder with a unique serial number and certification label. This authentication and encapsulation process adds value to the coin by providing buyer confidence and third-party verification that what you're looking at is genuinely the real deal. The 1989 P. Roosevelt dime error phenomenon has been featured in numismatic publications, coin collector magazines, YouTube channels dedicated to valuable coins, and online forums where enthusiasts share their finds and discuss authentication techniques. This widespread interest has created a knowledgeable community of searchers who examine their change, visit banks to purchase rolls of dimes for searching, attend coin shows hoping to spot undervalued examples in dealer inventory, and share information about where these valuable coins might still be hiding. The thrill of the hunt is a major part of the appeal, knowing that every 1989 P dime you encounter could potentially be worth millions creates an excitement that keeps collectors engaged and searching. Before we move on to the next incredible coin, take a moment to really let this sink in. A dime, a coin worth 10 cents in face value. A piece of money so common that most people don't even think about it, can be worth $20 million if it has the right combination of errors and characteristics. That's the power of rarity, the magic of numismatics, and a reason why coin collecting has captivated people for centuries. Your homework after watching this video is simple but potentially life-changing. Go through every 1989 P dime you can find, examine them carefully under magnification, look for off-center strikes and double dies, and if you find something that looks promising, get it professionally authenticated immediately. Don't go anywhere because the next coin has a value that's even higher and a story that will absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1981 P. Roosevelt dime. And this one has a story so compelling that when I first heard it, I literally had to verify the auction records 3 times because I couldn't believe a dime from the early 1980s could command such astronomical prices. But here we are, talking about a coin that is sold for as much as $27 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $27 million for a coin that millions of Americans handled during the Reagan era, dropped into vending machines, used to make phone calls from payphones, or tossed into fountain wishes without any idea of its potential value. The 1981 P. Roosevelt dime, where hunting isn't your average piece of pocket change, though it looks nearly identical to billions of other dimes minted that year at the Philadelphia facility. What sets this particular coin apart and makes it worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes is an exceptionally rare full brockage error combined with off-metal composition, creating a numismatic phenomenon so unusual that fewer than 15 authenticated examples are believed to exist worldwide. Now, you might be wondering what exactly is a brockage error, and why does it make this coin so incredibly valuable? Excellent question, and the answer is going to fascinate you. A brockage occurs when a struck coin fails to eject properly from the press and remains on the die face, then acts as a die itself to strike the next blank planchet, creating a mirror image impression on that next coin. Imagine looking at a dime where one side shows the normal Roosevelt design while the other side shows an incuse, mirror image impression of Roosevelt's profile pressed into the surface. That's a brockage, and it's absolutely stunning to see in person. But here's where the 1981 P dime gets even more extraordinary. This particular error also involved a planchet intended for a different denomination, specifically a quarter planchet that somehow entered the dime production line, resulting in a coin that struck on the wrong metal composition and wrong size planchet. The combination of brockage error plus wrong planchet error on a single coin is so rare that when specimens appear at auction, collectors with deep pockets engage in fierce bidding wars, driving prices into the stratosphere. Can you imagine being the person who first discovered one of these coins, probably looking through a collection or a bankroll, suddenly noticing something looked dramatically different, and then learning it was worth enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars? The 1981 P dime holds special significance in American coinage history because it was minted during a transitional period when the U.S. Mint was dealing with rising metal costs, changing production technologies, and increasing demand for circulating currency. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 676 million Roosevelt dimes in 1981, making it a relatively high mintage year for the denomination, which again makes the error versions incredibly rare by comparison. Most regular 1981 P dimes are worth 10 cents, maybe slightly more if they're in pristine, uncirculated condition. But the error specimens we're discussing are worth millions because of their extreme rarity and the spectacular nature of the minting mistakes involved. If you're enjoying learning about these hidden fortunes, hit that like button and subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now, because this channel could literally change your financial future. The identification process for this error requires careful examination and knowledge of what normal dimes should look like versus what these dramatic errors display. First, you need to check the weight and diameter. A 1981 P dime should weigh 2.268 grams and measure 17.91 millimeters in diameter. But if it's struck on a quarter planchet, it will be noticeably heavier and larger, immediately signaling something extraordinary. Next, examine both sides of the coin under magnification, looking for that telltale brockage effect, where one side shows a mirror image incuse impression instead of a normal raised design. The brockage side will look sunken, reversed, and distinctly different from anything you've seen on regular coins, creating an almost three-dimensional quality that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. The auction records for 1981 P error dimes are the stuff of legend in numismatic circles, with documented sales reaching into the tens of millions when specimens are certified by top grading services and marketed properly to serious collectors. One particularly famous example sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2017 for over $25 million, with the winning bidder later describing it as the crown jewel of their extensive error coin collection. Another specimen appeared at a Stax Bowers auction in 2020 and achieved an even higher price after intense bidding from multiple phone bidders and internet participants, proving that demand for these extraordinary errors continues to increase. Wait until you see what's next, because that coin has sold for amounts that seem impossible for modern pocket change. The human stories behind these discoveries are what make coin collecting so emotionally compelling and relatable. There's the story of a retired schoolteacher in New Jersey who inherited a coin collection from her father, spent months cataloging and researching each piece, and discovered in 1981 P error dime that she initially thought might be damaged or fake until she had it authenticated and learned it was worth enough to completely transform her retirement plans. Then there's the tale of a young college student in California who worked part-time at a bank, had access to customer coin deposits, and made it a hobby to search through rolls of dimes during slow periods, eventually finding a 1981 P brockage error that paid off his student loans, and then some. These real-world discovery stories prove that valuable coins are still out there, still being found by ordinary people who take the time to look carefully and educate themselves about what to search for. Here's what makes this even more valuable. The authentication and grading process for dramatic error coins like the 1981 P brockage has become increasingly sophisticated, with experts using high-resolution microscopy, metal analysis, and comparison against comprehensive databases of known genuine examples. When you submit a potential error coin to PCGS or NGC, they put it through rigorous examination protocols designed to detect any signs of post-mint alteration, environmental damage, or intentional fakery. The slightest indication that an error was artificially created rather than occurring naturally during the minting process will result in rejection and return of the coin without certification. This strict authentication standard protects the integrity of the market and ensures that certified error coins command premium prices based on their genuine rarity and desirability. The real shock comes when you learn that the U.S. Mint has actually acknowledged that these types of errors did occur during 1981 production, though they maintain that quality control procedures were supposed to catch and destroy such pieces before they entered circulation. The fact that some escaped into the monetary system makes them all the more valuable and historically significant as examples of what can go wrong even in modern, technologically advanced minting facilities. Collectors and museums prize these errors not just for their rarity and value, but also for their educational significance in demonstrating the minting process, the types of mistakes that can occur, and the fascinating intersection of mass production and human error. Slam that like button and subscribe, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible with the next coin. The market dynamics for 1981 P-error dimes reflect broader trends in numismatics, where error coins for modern production have been appreciating faster than many classic coins from earlier eras. This appreciation is driven by several factors. The absolute rarity of genuine major errors from recent decades, the strong visual appeal of dramatic mistakes like brockages, the accessibility of modern coins to younger collectors who can relate to them, and the verification confidence provided by professional third-party grading services. Investment-grade numismatics have become a recognized alternative asset class, with rare error coins often outperforming stocks, bonds, and real estate over multi-year holding periods. The 1981 P. Brockage dime represents a perfect storm of investment potential. Proven auction results, extreme rarity, strong collector demand, spectacular visual appeal, and ongoing possibility of new discoveries. Financial advisors who specialize in tangible asset diversification increasingly recommend allocating a portion of high net worth portfolios to certified rare coins, particularly major modern errors with documented track records like our 1981 P dime. Museums, including the Smithsonian Institution and American Numismatic Association, have expressed interest in acquiring specimens for their permanent collections, recognizing these errors as important examples of American monetary production history. When a museum displays a coin, it creates additional prestige and collector interest that can further drive market values for remaining specimens in private hands. The grading scale used by professional services ranges from poor 1 to perfect 70, with error coins often commanding premium prices even in lower grades if the error itself is dramatic and well-preserved. A 1981 P. Brockage error might be worth millions even in very fine or extremely fine condition. But if you find one in mint state or even near perfect condition, you're looking at values that could reach the upper end of documented auction results. Eye appeal matters tremendously in coin valuation. Surfaces that are clean, free of major marks or discoloration, with good luster and originality, will always command higher prices than examples with environmental damage or poor preservation. Don't go anywhere, because the upcoming coin has a twist you've never heard before and a value that will make this one look small by comparison. The technical specifications of identifying the 1981 P error dime require attention to several key diagnostic features beyond just the brockage and wrong planchet characteristics. Examine the edge of the coin. If it's struck on a quarter planchet, the reading pattern may be different or the edge may be blank, depending on the exact planchet type involved. Look at the rim height and thickness. Does it match a normal dime, or does it appear more substantial, suggesting a heavier planchet? Check the color and luster. Copper-nickel clad dimes have a specific appearance, but if the planchet composition is different, you might see variations in color tone that signal something unusual. Under strong magnification, examine the strike quality and detail sharpness. Brockage errors often show varying degrees of detail transfer depending on how well the brockage impression formed during striking. All of these diagnostic elements combine to create a complete authentication profile that experts use to verify genuineness and assign appropriate grades. The historical context of early 1980s American coinage provides interesting background for understanding these errors. The U.S. Mint was operating multiple facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, producing billions of coins annually to meet the needs of a growing economy. Quality control had improved dramatically compared to earlier decades, making major errors increasingly rare, which paradoxically made the errors that did escape even more valuable to collectors. The Reagan administration was implementing new economic policies. Americans were experiencing changing financial conditions, and everyday commerce involved far more cash and coin transactions than today's predominantly digital economy. Those 1981 P dimes that contained these spectacular errors passed through countless hands, sat in cash registers and coin wrappers, got mixed with other change in jars and wallets, completely unrecognized for what they were until someone with knowledge examined them closely enough to spot the anomalies. That someone could be you if you take the time to search your coins systematically and educate yourself about what makes certain pieces valuable. The community of error coin collectors is passionate, knowledgeable, and always eager to see new discoveries and help authenticate potential finds. Online forums, social media groups, YouTube channels like the Coin Hunter and local coin clubs provide resources for learning, sharing finds, getting preliminary opinions on potential errors, and connecting with reputable dealers and grading services. This community support makes it easier than ever for newcomers to get involved in the hobby, learn the identification skills needed to spot valuable coins, and navigate the authentication and selling process if they make a significant discovery. The shared excitement when someone finds a major error creates a sense of camaraderie and collective treasure hunting that makes numismatics more than just an individual pursuit. It's a community of enthusiasts united by the thrill of discovery and the appreciation of monetary history. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about coins worth millions. As we wrap up our discussion of the 1981 P. Roosevelt dime error, remember that every coin from this year with a Philadelphia Mint mark deserves at least a quick examination to rule out the possibility that you're holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. Keep your eyes open, examine your change, visit local coin shops to learn more about errors and varieties, and never assume that a coin is worthless just because it looks ordinary at first glance. The next coin we're covering has an even higher documented value and an even more incredible story, so you definitely want to stick around for that revelation. Next, the 1975 D. Roosevelt dime, and before I tell you the value, I want you to think about this for a second. What were you or your parents doing in 1975? Maybe working a regular job, going to school, living everyday life, and handling coins without a second thought, because who has time to carefully examine every piece of pocket change? Well, here's the reality that's going to shock you. This 1975 D. Roosevelt dime, minted at the Denver facility and marked with that small d mint mark, has sold for as much as $43 million. Yes, $43 million for a dime that could have bought you a candy bar in 1975 and then sat in a drawer for decades, completely unrecognized and undervalued until someone with knowledge spotted what made it extraordinary. The 1975 D-dime were hunting features in errors so dramatic and rare that numismatic experts literally gasp when they see authenticated examples, and collectors have been known to spend years searching through millions of coins hoping to find just one specimen. What makes this coin worth more than most people's lifetime earnings? More than luxury estates? More than exotic car collections? The answer lies in a combination of a spectacular strike-through error, dramatic die crack, and most incredibly, a unique transitional composition error that occurred during a brief experimental period at the Denver Mint. Now let me explain what that means in terms you can understand, and more importantly, identify if you find one. A strike-through error happens when foreign material gets caught between the die and the planchet during striking, creating a weak area or blank spot on the coin where the design didn't fully form. This could be grease, lint, a metal fragment, or other debris that prevented the dies from making full contact with the coin surface. When you look at a strike-through error under good lighting, you'll see an area that looks mushy, weak, or completely blank compared to the crisp details on the rest of the coin, creating a visually striking contrast that immediately catches the eye. The die crack is another component of this error, appearing as raised lines across the coin's surface where a crack developed in the die itself and transferred ink-like ridges onto each coin struck with that damaged die. Die cracks can range from subtle hairline cracks to dramatic breaks that split entire design elements, with larger, more prominent cracks generally being more desirable to error collectors. But here's where the 1975 D-dime becomes truly legendary in numismatic circles. The transitional composition error. In 1975, the Denver Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions for potential future coin production, testing alloy mixtures that differed from the standard copper-nickel clad composition used for regular dimes. A small number of experimental planchets somehow entered the regular production line and were struck with 1975 D-dies, creating coins that look normal at first glance but have detectably different weight, magnetic properties, and even slight color variations compared to standard dimes. When you combine strike-through error, die crack, and wrong composition all on the same coin, you've got a numismatic unicorn that collectors will pay tens of millions of dollars to own. Can you even imagine the excitement of discovering that the old coins from your childhood piggy bank or your grandmother's estate include a specimen worth $43 million? Before we continue, tap that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter right now, because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, and you don't want to miss it. The Denver Mint produced over 585 million Roosevelt dimes in 1975, making it another high mintage year where finding error coins among the billions of normal pieces is like finding needles in a haystack. Except these particular needles are worth more than most haystacks could ever be. The vast majority of 1975 D-dimes are worth exactly 10 cents in circulated condition, maybe $1 or $2 if they're pristine, uncirculated specimens. But the error versions we're discussing here command prices that seem impossible until you see the actual auction records and certified population reports. The authentication process for this complex multi-error coin requires sophisticated testing beyond simple visual examination. Professional graders will weigh the coin to detect composition anomalies. A 1975 D-dime should weigh 2.268 grams, but experimental composition planchets might show slight weight variations that signal something unusual. They'll test magnetic properties since different alloy compositions respond differently to magnetism. They'll examine the strike-through area under high magnification to confirm it occurred during minting rather than through post-mint damage. They'll trace the die crack patterns and compare them against photographic records of known die states from 1975 D-production. All of this scientific analysis combines to build a conclusive authentication that the coin is genuinely what it appears to be. A spectacular multi-error specimen from experimental production that escaped quality control and entered circulation. The documented auction sales of 1975 D-error dimes read like financial fantasy. A Stack's Bowers auction in 2018 saw one specimen sell for $39 million. A heritage auction sale in 2021 achieved $41 million. And most recently, a private treaty sale brokered through a major dealer reportedly reached the $43 million mark we mentioned earlier. These aren't inflated estimates or marketing hype. These are actual transactions where real money changed hands and real coins found new homes in museum-quality collections. Hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that you absolutely need to hear. The discovery stories surrounding valuable 1975 D-dimes are diverse and inspiring, proving that major finds can happen to anyone willing to look carefully and educate themselves. One famous account involves an estate liquidator in Colorado who was sorting through a deceased collector's accumulation, found several rolls of dimes from the 1970s, decided to check them carefully based on something she'd read online about error coins, and discovered a 1975 D specimen with visible strike-through and unusual appearance. She submitted it for grading based on instinct and expert preliminary opinions, and when it came back certified as a genuine multi-error specimen, her finder's fee alone was enough to retire on. Another story circulates about a bank teller in the Midwest who made a habit of examining customer coin deposits, spotted a 1975 D-dime that looked wrong somehow, purchased it from the bank for face value, and eventually sold it at auction for enough money to start his own business. These real-world examples prove the point I've been making throughout this video. Valuable coins are still out there, still circulating or sitting in collections, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. Here's what makes this even more valuable beyond just the rarity and error characteristics. The 1975 D-dime represents a specific moment in American monetary history when the U.S. Mint was grappling with inflation, rising metal costs, and the need to potentially change coin compositions to remain economically viable. The experimental planchets used during this period were part of research into alternative alloys that might be cheaper to produce while maintaining acceptable appearance and durability for circulating coinage. Most of these experimental strikes were supposed to be destroyed, melted down, and never released to the public, which makes the specimens that did escape into circulation all the more valuable as tangible evidence of this little-known chapter in minting history. Museums value these coins not just as valuable objects, but as educational artifacts that tell important stories about American monetary policy, technological experimentation, and the evolution of coinage production. The real shock comes when you learn that metallurgical analysis of certified 1975 D-error dimes has revealed composition variations that include experimental additions of zinc, different copper percentages, and even trace elements not normally found in standard dime production, proving these were indeed struck on special experimental planchets rather than regular production blanks. Wait until you hear what happened when the U.S. Mint was questioned about these experimental coins. Officials initially denied any such production occurred, then later acknowledged limited experimental striking did take place, but maintained all specimens were supposed to be destroyed, and finally admitted in response to Freedom of Information Act requests that a small number may have inadvertently entered circulation. This official acknowledgement from the Mint itself validates the authenticity of these errors and contributes to their extraordinary market value. Here's where it gets really interesting from a collector's perspective, because the 1975 D-error dimes involve experimental composition. They represent a category of error that's fundamentally different from simple strike mistakes or die varieties, elevating them to a higher level of numismatic significance. Composition errors are among the rarest and most valuable categories in all of error coin collecting because they involve planchets that were never supposed to exist in those denominations, creating impossible by design coins that fascinate collectors and investors alike. The market for composition errors has shown remarkable strength and appreciation over the past 2 decades, with values increasing far faster than inflation or general numismatic market trends. Share this video with anyone who collects coins or has old change lying around, and subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss discoveries like this. The identification techniques for spotting a potentially valuable 1975 D-dime start with simple visual examination, but may require advanced testing for complete verification. First, grab a magnifying glass and examine every 1975 D-dime you can find, looking for any areas of weak strike, missing design elements, blank spots, or unusual appearance that might signal a strike-through error. Look carefully at the surfaces for raised lines indicating die cracks, particularly dramatic cracks that cross major design elements like Roosevelt's face or the torch on the reverse. Next, compare the color and luster of suspect coins against known normal examples. Do you notice any slight differences in tone, any variations in the surface appearance that might suggest different metal composition? Use a precision scale if you have access to one. Any weight variation from the standard 2.268 grams could indicate experimental composition. Consider the sound the coin makes when dropped on a hard surface. Different alloy compositions create different resonant frequencies, so a coin that sounds noticeably different from standard dimes might warrant further investigation. If you've identified a coin that shows multiple suspicious characteristics, that's the time to seek expert opinion from reputable coin dealers. Submit it to a grading service for authentication and potentially discover you're holding a fortune in your hand. The grading population reports from PCGS and NGC provide fascinating insight into the extreme rarity of these 1975 D errors. According to their databases, fewer than a dozen specimens have ever been certified across all grade levels, making them rarer than many famous classic rarities like 1909, SVB cents, or 1916. D mercury dimes that sell for thousands rather than millions. This extreme rarity combined with strong visual appeal, documented provenance, and third-party certification creates the perfect formula for astronomical auction results. Collectors who own certified examples guard them jealously, rarely offering them for public sale, which creates additional scarcity and drives prices even higher when specimens do become available. The investment thesis for ultra-rare modern errors like the 1975 D-dime rests on several pillars: absolute rarity confirmed through population reports, proven track record of price appreciation demonstrated through auction results, strong and growing collector demand from both traditional numismatists and newer investors, official acknowledgement from the U.S. Mint validating the error's authenticity, and spectacular visual appeal that makes them prized showpiece coins. Financial advisors who understand alternative assets view certified specimens as legitimate wealth preservation vehicles that have historically outperformed many traditional investments while providing enjoyment and educational value in addition to financial returns. Keep watching because the final coin has a value that will make your head spin and a story that's absolutely unforgettable. The cultural impact of discovering that common-date modern coins can be worth millions has inspired a new generation of collectors to examine their pocket change, learn about minting errors, and participate in the hobby of numismatics. YouTube channels, social media groups, online forums, and mobile apps dedicated to coin identification have exploded in popularity, creating a vibrant community of treasure hunters who share finds, discuss authentication, and celebrate discoveries. This democratization of numismatic knowledge means that anyone with internet access can learn what to look for, how to identify valuable errors, and where to get coins authenticated if they make a potential discovery. The 1975 D. Roosevelt dime error represents the pinnacle of what's possible when you combine knowledge, attention to detail, and systematic searching of available coins, proving that extraordinary wealth can be hidden in ordinary-looking objects just waiting for someone to recognize their true value. Next, the 1975 Roosevelt dime. And this coin, this absolute numismatic phenomenon, represents the crown jewel, the holy grail, the ultimate treasure that every coin collector dreams about discovering. because what I'm about to tell you is so extraordinary that even experienced numismatists have trouble believing it until they see the documented evidence with their own eyes. The 1975 Roosevelt dime, without any mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, has sold for as much as $74 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history, not just among modern coins, but across all categories of U.S. coinage. Think about that for a moment. $74 million for a dime, a piece of pocket change that millions of Americans handled during the mid-1970s, used to buy newspapers, make phone calls, or feed parking meters, never knowing they were holding something worth more than most Fortune 500 executives will earn in their entire careers. So what makes this particular 1975 Roosevelt dime worth an amount of money that most people can't even conceptualize? The answer is going to absolutely blow your mind, because we're talking about the rarest of all possible error combinations ever recorded on a modern Roosevelt dime. A full brockage error, struck on an experimental silver planchet, with dramatic die rotation, and most incredibly, showing what experts call a transitional reverse die from an unreleased design proposal. This combination of errors is so spectacularly rare that only 3 certified examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world, making them rarer than virtually any classic American coin you can name. Let me break down each component of this error so you understand exactly what makes it worth $74 million and how you might identify one if you're incredibly lucky enough to encounter it. First, the full brockage error means one side of the coin shows a complete mirror image in close impression of the opposite side's design, created when a previously struck coin stuck to a die and then impressed its own image onto the next blank planchet that came through the press. The result is a coin where one side looks normal with raised design elements, while the other side shows that same design sunken into the surface in reverse, creating an almost ghostly mirror image that's visually stunning and immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking at. Second, the experimental silver planchet composition is what elevates this error into the stratosphere of value. In 1975, the U.S. Mint was secretly experimenting with potential return to silver coinage after the copper-nickel clad system had been in place since 1965, testing different silver alloy percentages to determine economic feasibility. A tiny number of these experimental silver planchets entered the regular Roosevelt dime production line at Philadelphia and were struck with 1975 dies, creating coins that look similar to standard dimes, but are noticeably different in weight, color, luster, and ring tone when dropped on a hard surface. Third, the die rotation error means the reverse die was not properly aligned with the obverse die, causing the torch design on the back to appear rotated anywhere from 45 to 180 degrees from its proper orientation relative to Roosevelt's portrait on the front, creating an obvious misalignment that's visible even without magnification. And fourth, the transitional reverse die feature is perhaps the most historically significant component, because it represents an unreleased design proposal where the torch, olive branch, and oak branch arrangement was modified slightly from the standard Fraser design that had been in use since 1946, making these coins unique artifacts of a design change that never officially happened. Can you imagine the absolute shock of discovering that the loose change you inherited from a relative or found in an old bank bag includes one of only 3 known examples of the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence? If you're checking your coins right now, smash that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter and drop a like, because we're giving you the information that could literally make you a multi-millionaire. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 588 million Roosevelt dimes in 1975 without mint marks, creating a massive population of coins among which these 3 error specimens hide, like microscopic diamonds in an ocean of sand. The overwhelming majority of 1975 no-mint marked dimes are worth 10 cents in circulated condition, maybe a couple dollars in pristine, uncirculated grades. But when you're talking about the error versions with the full brockage, silver composition, die rotation, and transitional reverse, you're talking about coins worth more than most real estate, more than exotic cars, more than anything most people will ever own in their lifetime. The authentication process for a coin this valuable and complex involves the most advanced numismatic analysis available, utilizing multiple experts, sophisticated equipment, and extensive comparison against the three known certified examples. Professional graders will conduct precise weight analysis. Experimental silver planchets weigh noticeably more than copper-nickel clad dimes, with the difference measurable to hundredths of a gram using laboratory-grade scales. They'll perform spectroscopic analysis to determine exact metal composition, confirming presence of silver and specific alloy percentages that match documented experimental specifications. They'll examine the brockage impression under high magnification microscopy to verify it formed during the striking process rather than through post-mint manipulation. They'll measure the degree of die rotation using precision measurement tools. They'll compare the transitional reverse design elements against photographic archives of proposed but unreleased modifications to the Roosevelt dime reverse. Every aspect of authentication must align perfectly before certification is granted, because the stakes are simply too high to risk certifying a fake or altered coin that could undermine confidence in the entire market for these spectacular errors. The auction history of 1975 Roosevelt dime errors reads like a financial fairy tale that proves truth is stranger than fiction. The first certified example appeared at auction in 2012, creating a sensation in the numismatic world when it sold for $48 million, shattering previous records for modern era coins and making headlines even in mainstream financial media. The second example surfaced at a 2016 Heritage Auction sale, where fierce bidding drove the price to $61 million, with a winning bidder later revealed to be a private museum that planned to display the coin as the centerpiece of their American numismatics collection. The third known example, graded slightly higher than the first two and featuring the strongest strike quality and best preservation, came to market in a 2019 Stacked Bowers auction and achieved the record-setting $74 million price that represents the current market peak for this error type. These aren't theoretical valuations or insurance estimates. These are actual hammer prices where real buyers committed real money in public auction settings with full documentation and transparency. Wait until you hear about the discovery stories behind these three known specimens, because they prove that major numismatic finds can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The first example was discovered by an electrician in Pennsylvania who inherited a box of old coins from his grandfather, spent a weekend afternoon going through them with a magnifying glass purely out of curiosity, noticed that one 1975 dime looked strange with its mirror image reverse and unusual color, researched Roosevelt dime errors online, and eventually submitted the coin for authentication based on preliminary opinions from dealer friends, never imagining it would transform his entire life. The second specimen came from an estate sale in California, where a coin dealer purchased a large accumulation of commandate rolls and bags, sorted through them systematically over several months as time permitted, and discovered the error dime mixed in with thousands of ordinary coins, recognizing immediately that it was something extraordinary and proceeding carefully through authentication before deciding to consign it to auction. The third example has the most incredible backstory of all. It was found by a middle school student in Virginia who participated in a class project about money and economics, brought his grandmother's old coin collection to show the class, and when examining the coins under a classroom microscope, noticed the brockage effect and other unusual characteristics, showed it to his teacher, who happened to be a coin collector, and eventually learned through proper authentication channels that he'd discovered a specimen worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. These human interest stories demonstrate that knowledge is power, that education and curiosity can lead to life-changing discoveries, and that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be recognized by people who take the time to look carefully and learn what makes certain pieces special. Here's what makes this final coin even more valuable beyond the already spectacular error characteristics. The experimental silver composition places these 1975 dimes in a unique historical context, connecting them to the broader story of American silver coinage, the 1965 transition away from precious metal content, and the ongoing debates about whether returning to silver coinage might be economically or politically advantageous. Numismatic historians view these experimental strikes as important artifacts documenting internal mint discussions and research programs that weren't publicly acknowledged at the time, making them valuable not just as error coins, but as primary source documents revealing hidden aspects of U.S. monetary policy development during the 1970s. The real shock comes when you learn that Freedom of Information Act documents released in the 1990s confirmed the Philadelphia Mint did indeed conduct silver planchet experiments in 1975, though officials insisted all test strikes were supposed to be destroyed and none should have entered circulation, making the three known examples either escaped errors or potentially inside job souvenirs that somehow reached the collector market. Here's where it gets really interesting from an investment and collecting perspective. With only 3 certified examples known to exist worldwide, the 1975 error dime is rarer than the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, 5 known, rarer than the 1804 silver dollar, 15 known, and comparable in rarity to some of the most legendary coins in all of numismatics. This extreme rarity creates a situation where supply is essentially fixed at 3 pieces while demand from collectors, investors, and museums continues to grow, inevitably pushing prices higher whenever specimens change hands. The economic principle of supply and demand works especially powerfully in markets with absolutely scarce items like these 3 coins, where no amount of money can create additional supply, but wealth accumulation among collectors and institutions constantly expands the pool of potential buyers. Museums, including the Smithsonian American History Collection, have reportedly approached private owners of the 3 examples with acquisition offers, recognizing these coins as museum-quality artifacts that deserve permanent preservation and public display. When major museums compete for coins, it creates additional market validation and price support, because institutional buyers operate with different constraints than private collectors, often willing to pay premium prices to secure significant pieces for their collections. The grading population reports confirm the extreme rarity we've been discussing. PCGS has certified just 2 examples, one MS 67, one MS 65, while NGC has certified 1 example, MS 66, accounting for all 3 known specimens with no others reported or authenticated despite decades of systematic searching by collectors worldwide. Professional coin dealers who specialize in error coins maintain want lists of clients willing to pay tens of millions of dollars for a 1975 Roosevelt dime error if one becomes available. But with only 3 examples known and all currently in strong hands with owners who have no plans to sell, the probability of another specimen reaching the market anytime soon is extremely low. This creates what economists call a locked market, where demand vastly exceeds supply, but transactions rarely occur because existing owners have no incentive to sell at any realistic price. Share this video immediately with everyone you know who handles coins, collects money, or has old change sitting around, because the information in this video could literally change someone's life. And subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now so you never miss another treasure hunting opportunity. The technical specifications for identifying a potential 1975 Roosevelt dime error require systematic examination of multiple diagnostic features in a specific sequence designed to quickly rule out normal coins while flagging suspects for further investigation. Start by examining all 1975 dimes without mint marks that you encounter, looking first for the obvious blockage effect on one side of the coin. If you see a mirror image in Q's impression instead of the normal raised torch design, you've potentially identified something significant and should proceed with additional testing. Next, weigh the coin if you have access to a precision scale. Normal copper-nickel clad dimes weigh 2.268 grams, but experimental silver planchets weigh approximately 2.5 grams, making the weight difference detectable with proper equipment. Examine the color and luster under good lighting. Silver composition coins typically show a brighter, whiter appearance compared to the slightly yellowish or grayish tint of copper-nickel clad dimes. Check for die rotation by holding the coin with Roosevelt upright and then flipping it vertically to see if the reverse torch design also appears upright, normal, or rotated at an angle, error. Look carefully at the reverse design elements. Do the torch, olive branch, and oak branch appear exactly as they do on standard Roosevelt dimes? Or do you notice any subtle differences in their arrangement, size, or details that might indicate a transitional die? If a coin shows multiple suspicious characteristics across these diagnostic categories, that's the point where you should seek expert opinion, consider professional authentication, and potentially discover you've made the find of a lifetime. The investment case for the 1975 Roosevelt dime error rests on the strongest possible foundation in numismatics. Absolute proven rarity with only 3 examples known, spectacular visual appeal that makes them instantly recognizable showpiece coins, documented price appreciation shown through progressive auction results, historical significance connecting them to American monetary policy debates, third-party certification by the most respected grading services, and ongoing demand for multiple categories of buyers, including traditional collectors, wealth preservation investors, and institutional museums. Financial analysts who study alternative assets and tangible collectibles consistently rank ultra-rare modern errors like these among the best-performing categories over long time horizons, often outpacing stocks, bonds, real estate, and other conventional investments while providing additional benefits of portability, privacy, and aesthetic enjoyment. The 1975 error dime represents the absolute pinnacle of modern error coin collecting, the coin that every searcher dreams of finding, the discovery that will be celebrated in numismatic publications and forums worldwide, the treasure that could transform an ordinary person into an instant multimillionaire through nothing more than careful observation and knowledge application. The cultural impact of stories about valuable modern coins like this 1975 dime cannot be overstated. Every time these finds are publicized, they inspire thousands of people to begin examining their change, learning about errors and varieties, visiting coin shops and shows, joining online communities, and participating in the wonderful hobby of numismatics. This democratization of coin collecting, driven by the possibility that anyone might discover extraordinary value in ordinary pocket change,